I first noticed a shift in Sandra months before the reunion was even mentioned. It wasn't anything obvious at first, just subtle changes that crept in like a slow tide. She started staying at work later than usual, and when she came home, she'd sink into the couch with her phone clutched tightly in both hands, as if it were a lifeline to some secret world she didn't want to share with me. She'd sit beside me, screen lighting up her face, fingers gliding rapidly across the glass, smiling to herself at something or someone that wasn't me. At the time, I didn't dwell on it. We all have ways to unwind, distractions to escape the wear of daily life. I assumed it was harmless, maybe a group chat with friends or a funny meme. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, chalked it up to stress. But then the topic of the reunion started creeping into our conversations. First like a passing thought, then like a drumbeat growing louder. "It's been 10 years, Danny," she said one evening casually as she chopped vegetables in the kitchen. "Everyone's coming back. It'll be fun." I smiled, nodded. "Sounds nice. Reconnecting." She smiled too, but it was distracted. Her mind was already somewhere else. Over the next few weeks, that reunion became the centerpiece of her world. She started shopping with unusual enthusiasm, buying clothes she never would have glanced at before. She experimented with her hair, booked spa appointments she wouldn't even bother with on our anniversary. She moved with a purpose, as if preparing for a role, not just an event. One night at dinner, I watched her excitedly recount stories of old classmates I'd never heard of. "You're going all out," I said with a small smile, trying to sound casual. "Big night, huh?" She laughed lightly. "I just want to look good. It's been a while." I nodded again, forcing a smile, but something inside me stirred. Doubt, unease. I offered to go with her, but the way she paused, fork midway to her mouth, said more than her words ever could. "It's just college friends," she said, brushing it off. "You'd probably be bored." The words hit harder than she knew, as if being with me was a chore, a box she checked, not something she enjoyed. I told myself not to overthink it. Nostalgia does strange things to people. But the knot in my chest tightened as the day approached, the night of the reunion. She came down the stairs looking radiant. She wore a navy blue dress I'd never seen before, her makeup precise, heels high and unapologetic. She looked like someone stepping into a version of her life that didn't include me. "Wow," I said, letting out a low whistle. "You look amazing." She didn't even look at me, just adjusted an earring and muttered, "Thanks." I tried again, gently. "You sure you don't want to come with you?" A flicker of hesitation, brief but unmistakable. "It's just old friends," she repeated, grabbing her clutch. "Really, you'd be bored." I nodded, pretending to accept it, but the second the door closed behind her, I picked up my keys and followed. She drove across town to a familiar bar. I parked across the street and waited in the shadows. It didn't take long. She found him quickly, David. I remembered the name. He was always in the background of her college stories. The one who never left town. The way she lit up when she saw him, grinning like a teenager on her first date, told me everything I needed to know. They hugged, and it lingered. Too close. Too long. They sat at the bar, heads leaned in close, laughter flowing easily. Her hand found his arm with a tenderness that comes from familiarity, not newness. After an hour, they slipped outside. I followed quietly, careful to stay hidden, under a dim street lamp. He pulled her in and kissed her. Not a goodbye kiss. Not something innocent. It was long, deep, intimate. A kiss full of history and comfort. A kiss that told me this wasn't beginning. It was already well underway. I raised my phone, took a few pictures. Not out of anger, but clarity. I needed proof. Not for confrontation, but confirmation. When they got into his car and drove off, I didn't chase. I just stood there in the dark, the cold air around me, and let the truth settle. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It had roots. The drive home was silent. No radio, no thoughts loud enough to drown out the image of Sandra in someone else's arms. When I stepped back into our house, everything looked exactly the same. Her coat still hung by the door. Her wine glass still sat on the counter. but the place felt hollow, like a stage set after the actors had left. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the photos. Her face told the story. The tilt of her smile, the light in her eyes, the way she melted into him. You can forgive a lot, harmless texts, working late, being distant, but not that. That kiss was a line crossed. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't need to. She had already made her choice. She just hadn't told me yet. She came home around dawn, barefoot, mascara smudged, heels dangling from her hand. She didn't even see me at the top of the stairs. Just dropped her keys, collapsed onto the couch, and closed her eyes like everything was normal. I watched her quietly, then turned, went back upstairs, and began to let go. I didn't leave right away. That would have been too easy. I wanted her to feel it first, to live in the silence of what she destroyed. Over the next few days, I moved quietly, found a small apartment across town, opened a new bank account, rerouted my paychecks. She kept pretending, still fed me stories about work meetings and girls' nights, still smiled at her phone, like it held the rest of her life. One evening at dinner, I watched her sipping wine, half scrolling, half chewing. I thought I saw someone who looked like David the other day. I said, casually, slicing into my food. She froze, just for a second. But I saw it. David? She echoed, trying for confusion. Haven't seen him in years. I smiled. Wasn't he at the reunion? She shook her head too quickly. No, he wasn't there. Right. I murmured. Not at the reunion. I didn't push. I let the lie hang in the air between us. Heavy and obvious. She didn't realize I already knew, that I'd already seen everything. That weekend, while she was out shopping, I packed the last of my things. A few clothes, my documents, some old photos. I left the rest. The house was no longer home, just a place I once existed. Before leaving, I took off my wedding ring and placed it beside her half-full glass of wine on the kitchen counter. No note, no explosion, just silence, the kind that speaks volumes. That night, I watched from down the street as she came home, laughing at something on her phone. She walked inside without a clue. 30 seconds later, the porch light flicked on. The door flew open. She rushed out, eyes scanning the street, desperate. Like, maybe I'd be there waiting. But I wasn't. Not anymore. She started calling immediately. My cell, my work line, even my brother Christopher. I didn't answer. I let her sit in the quiet she'd earned. Later that night, Christopher called. You want me to deal with her? He asked. I've got it, I said. When I arrived, she was standing on his porch, hugging herself, eyes red, voice cracking. Danny, please talk to me. I stood by my car, calm. You lied, I said, and you thought I wouldn't notice. It was a mistake, she whispered. It didn't mean anything. I gave a short, cold laugh. You kissed him like someone you never stopped loving. That's not a mistake. That's a decision. I love you, she said, tears sliding down her cheeks. No, I said, you loved who I was before I saw you clearly. She reached out, clutching my jacket like it could still anchor her. But I stepped back. You lost, I said. You just didn't realize it until it was too late. I turned and drove away, leaving her there beneath the porch light, crying in the space where our life used to be. My new place wasn't anything fancy. Just a quiet second-floor apartment with no memories attached. No ghosts. The next morning, I mailed the divorce papers. No anger. No need for revenge. I wanted peace. Let her keep the house, the furniture, the framed photos of life we no longer shared. A couple weeks later, an old friend called. You heard about Sandra? No, I said. She's not working, barely leaving the house. People say she just lies in bed. I didn't respond. What was there to say? She lit the match. I just stepped out of the way. When the signed papers returned, her signature was shaky, like it took everything she had to finish it. No note, no last apology, just the final page of a closed book. Friends checked in. Christopher asked how I was doing, but I wasn't broken. I wasn't bitter. I was free. Sandra stayed stuck in that big, silent house full of echoes. I heard she tried dating, but it never lasted. Maybe because it was never about finding someone new. It was about replacing what she threw away. She didn't just lose me. She lost a version of herself that could still be loved by someone who truly knew her. Sometimes I sit on my balcony at night, beer in hand, watching the city lights stretch out below. I think about the man I used to be, the one who waited up late, hoping love would be enough to hold things together. I don't hate him. He just hadn't learned yet. Because sometimes it takes losing the wrong person to finally discover your own worth. And Sandra's biggest mistake wasn't the kiss or the lie, or even walking away. It was thinking I'd still be there when she came back. But I wasn't. And for the first time in a long, long time, I was already gone.